Hello, as Eric said, I'm Earl Weener. I'm a member of the National Transportation Safety Board.
Speak up, sir.
The NTSB is an independent federal agency who's charged by Congress to investigate accidents and to improve transportation safety. Our mission is to understand what happened, why it happened, and prevent it from happening again by making appropriate recommendations. Before I go any further, on behalf of the NTSB, I'd like to offer our condolences to the families and friends of those who were injured or who were killed in this tragic accident. I'd also like to express our appreciation to the excellent efforts of the Washington Metropolitan Police Department and other first responders. We're grateful for the
It's hard to hear you, sir, without noise. You have to speak up loud, but we can't hear you.
We're grateful for the invaluable police work to secure the accident scene in order to preserve and collect all relevant evidence. In addition, we appreciate the good work of the Federal Railroad Administration, which responded to the scene and is working with the NTSB to further the investigation. The NTSB arrived on scene last night soon after the accident occurred, just before 11:30 p.m. Assistant Investigator in Charge Jim Southworth led the investigation through the night and will be joined later today by the investigator in charge, Mr. Ted Turpin. Mr. Turpin is a senior investigator with decades of experience in rail operations and safety, as well as extensive investigative experience. Mr. Turpin will lead a multidisciplinary team of NTSB experts in the following areas: tracks, to assess the condition of the tracks; operations, to look at the operational aspects of both involved trains and dispatchers; human factors, which typically looks at the issues regarding human performance; mechanical, to investigate the function of the involved mechanical systems; and recorders, to gather and review available data recorders, cameras, and other personal electronic devices. If needed, other specialists will be called in as well. Critical physical evidence will be collected and sent to either the NTSB lab or an outside contracted lab for inspection. We have few definitive facts at this early stage. However, what I'm able to say and to share with you at this point, we know that last night, sometime before 11:30 p.m., a CSX freight train headed out of Baltimore was approaching Union Station when an alert was conveyed from dispatch, prompting the train to stop and the crew to disembark in order to check the status of the train prior to continuing. At some point, two crew members from the CSX train crossed onto an active track on which Amtrak was operating passenger trains. A southbound Amtrak train, number 175, from Boston, struck both CSX employees, causing fatal injuries. At this time, we don't have information regarding leading us to believe that any other rail employee or passenger were injured. Emergency responders were notified and arrived on scene to secure the scene and offer assistance. Representatives from CSX and Amtrak are on scene and have fully cooperated with the NTSB investigation. Throughout the next few days, our investigators will continue to document the scene, including the tracks and involved trains. In addition, they will be speaking with witnesses and rail personnel, and our investigators will gather all available evidence. As mentioned earlier, our mission here is to understand not only what happened, but why it happened, so that similar events can be prevented in the future. The investigation process is necessarily complex. We don't determine the probable cause of an accident while on scene or in the initial phase of the investigation, nor do we speculate on what the causes of the accident were at this point. As I stated, our investigators have been on scene since last night and will remain on scene as needed to further the investigation. That said, at approximately 9:30 this morning, one track was released to be reopened for passenger traffic through the affected area. In order to safeguard investigators and provide opportunity to gather evidence, passing trains will remain under a speed restriction of approximately 10 miles per hour at this time. For further information, please follow us on Twitter or on our website. Our Twitter handle is @NTSB_newsroom, and our website is ntsb.gov. There are members of our media relations staff on scene with me today. Please make sure that you have given them a card so that you can be on their distribution list. With that, I'll take the opportunity to answer a few questions.
Doctor, an Amtrak passenger told me on that train that he felt the impact and then the train broke. Is there any indication that the Amtrak engineer or conductor saw the CSX workers on the track?
We can't really say anything about that at this time. We are in the process of downloading cameras, so we would be able to see what was visible out of the cab, as well as what would be visible inside the cab. But that's an ongoing process.
And can you talk to us more about the issue that dispatch relayed to the train that made them get out of that train?
Approximately every 25 miles or so, there's a detector which looks for abnormalities in the train. And in this particular case, that was triggered. The dispatch was notified that there was probably something wrong with one or more of the wheels. And the train came to a stop for the personnel, for the crew members, to take a look and try to identify what the problem was before continuing. It was at that operation that the accident occurred.
Is it unusual for that to happen? An indication like that to be signaled by dispatch?
It's a routine part of train operation to look for abnormalities in rolling stock.
Thank you, Doctor.
So what kind of communication is there between Amtrak and CSX as far as alerting one another that someone might be on the tracks? Are they supposed to be in communication with one another?
Well, that's an area we're going to be taking a close look at. What notification was made from CSX to Amtrak? That was an area where there are 4 tracks together. 2 belong to CSX, 2 belong to Amtrak.
Did you say both crew or 2 crew came down from the CSX train?
There was a conductor and a conductor being qualified on the route.
Okay.
Both got off the locomotive to check the status of the rolling stock.
And so total crew was 3?
Total crew was 3. The engineer remained on the locomotive. Pardon?
And those were the 2 who were hit.
The conductor and the conductor being qualified were both hit,
And
yes.
what's the standard procedure for CSX to alert Amtrak? How would they, is it a phone call, is it a text, or how would that normally work?
I really can't answer that at this time. That's one of the areas we're going to be taking a look at, what kind of communication processes were in place.
You said the CSX train came from Baltimore?
The CSX train came from Baltimore,
Where
yes.
was it going to?
I don't know what the destination
Do you
was.
have a number for the train?
We can provide that later, yes.
Can you give us, sir, an idea of the track layout here? Was the track where the workers were struck immediately adjacent to the track the freight train was on?
Yeah, there are 4 tracks together, all parallel. At this point, I think this area was pretty much straight track.
Yep.
Were the 2 tracks next to each other, the Amtrak train and the CSX train?
If you were to look to the south, the 2 tracks on the left were Amtrak, 2 tracks on the right were CSX.
But in terms of the tracks that were being used here, the freight train and the Amtrak train, were they immediately adjacent to each other?
He's crossing.
Yeah, the CSX train was crossing over from one track to the other. The locomotive was on the adjacent track to the Amtrak track, and the Amtrak 175 was in the right hand of the two tracks, so they were on adjacent tracks.
Can you be a little bit more specific about where the accident happened?
It happened pretty close to a location of 1231 New York Avenue Northeast. That's where I drove to.
Do either of you have any implication if these two people who lost their lives are based out of Baltimore? Are they local or from some other part of the country?
We don't know that at this time.
Can you tell us more about the CSX train? What was it carrying? How long was it?
I think it was mixed freight. The train was about 9,000 to 9,500 feet long, and the train was between 9,000 and 9,500 feet long, weighed approximately 4,000 trillion tons.
When you say mixed freight, what does that mean?
It's an intermodal train. It's an intermodal train.
Was it intermodal?
Yes.
Sir, what is the speed that an Amtrak train should be going in that area?
The speed limit coming into that area is 95 miles an hour.
Do you have any indication how fast the train was going?
The speed shortly thereafter approaching the Union Station is 30 miles per hour, so it was in the process of slowing down. I think we will be downloading the data recorders, and that will give us a much better understanding of what the speeds were.
The slowdown of the trains, is it done automatically, or the conductor has to punch the controls?
The engineer has to operate the controls.